Coming up on Global Business, Chinese President Xi Jinping held talks with Republic of Honduras President Xiomara Castro in Beijing on Monday. Several Chinese commercial banks reduced interest rates on a range of yuan deposits in a coordinated move to ease pressure on profit margins. As part of our coverage of the 25th Shanghai International Film Festival, we take a closer look at the development of cloud cinema in China. From CGTN headquarters in Beijing, this is Global Business. I'm Michelle Vandenberg. Honduran President Xiomara Castro is currently on a 6-day state visit to China. After spending 2 days in the country's economic hub, Shanghai, President Castro held talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing on Monday. Our Dong Xue has the latest.
Welcoming the president from the Central American country Honduras on her first visit to China since establishing ties in March, Chinese President Xi Jinping hailed the visit as opening a new chapter in history. The two heads of state held talks in Beijing on Monday and witnessed a signing of 17 bilateral cooperation documents across an array of Belt and Road construction, economy, trade, agriculture, science and technology, culture, and education. President Xi said the One China principle is the political foundation to further consolidate bilateral relations. He added, as the first female president of Honduras, Castro has been unifying and leading her people since coming to office in January last year. She showed a firm political will after making the historic decision to establish diplomatic relations with China. President Xi reiterated China will remain committed to developing friendly relations with Honduras, firmly support economic and social development in Honduras, and forge a good relationship and partnership with Honduras featuring mutual respect, equality, mutual benefit, and common development. President Castro, on the other hand, said she firmly supports the One China principle, and she highly appreciated the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative proposed by President Xi Jinping in order to build a peaceful and secure world. Castro's trip marks the latest step in a new relationship, now guided by Honduran support for the One China principle, and the shift in policy is expected to bring economic benefits for this Central American country. Earlier, Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang said the historic meeting between President Xi and President Castro is a significant step as bilateral relations reach a new height and achieve new developments. Dong Xue, CGTN, Beijing.
The inaugural China-Honduras High-Level Entrepreneur Exchange Conference took place today in Beijing. Around 100 Chinese entrepreneurs representing diverse sectors engaged in extensive discussions and cooperation with Honduran companies. Both nations aim to deepen practical economic and trade collaboration, boost trade growth, foster investment partnerships, and enhance infrastructure connectivities. At the conference, some companies reached further agreements, such as importing agricultural and textile products and investing in setting up factories in Honduras. Officials in Honduras say they're pleased about the strengthening of ties with China after the two sides established bilateral relations in March.
Strengthening bilateral relations and developing major projects based on mutual benefit will be favorable to both China and Honduras. The door for China-Honduras relationship has opened, which will welcome endless opportunities. We are very pleased and optimistic about the great step that the Honduran government made to embrace China, acknowledging that there is only one China in the world.
Relations between China and Honduras have progressed in the past 2 months or so. Our colleagues have visited China. Likewise, Chinese delegations also came here to learn about our exports, such as shrimp and muskmelon. We're moving forward along the journey of developing a broadly diplomatic relations with China.
We have already had direct communication with the Chinese side. We are looking forward to building a friendship and finding opportunities for trade and investment with Chinese provinces and cities through establishing sister city relationships.
Now let's take a closer look at the economic relations between China and Honduras. Bilateral trade has seen steady growth in the first 4 months of this year, with volumes surging by 14% on a yearly basis. This growth has been driven largely by Chinese exports to Honduras, particularly in the areas like steel and electrical equipment. Two-way investment and infrastructure cooperation have been ongoing even before the establishment of diplomatic relations. For example, since 2015, Power China, a major state-owned construction group, has been involved in building the Patuca 3 hydroelectric dam, the largest hydropower project in Honduras in over 3 decades. This project is now providing electricity to about 1/10 of the country's population. With a thriving coffee production industry, Honduras is regarded as one of the leading coffee producers in Central America. As such, Honduran coffee exporters are now looking forward to tap the huge potential in the Chinese market and further leverage on the growing ties between China and Honduras. Our Xu Yi has more.
Honduras has become a major coffee producer in the Americas, ranking 3rd after Brazil and Colombia, and 5th globally. The country's coffee exports for the 2021 and 2022 harvest exceeded 6 million bags, contributing around 38% of the nation's agricultural GDP. And Honduran coffee plantations stretched over an area of 280,000 hectares and were primarily managed by small coffee producers who account for 60% of the country's production. Notably, 1 in 10 Honduran citizens is involved in coffee farming. Honduran coffee exporters have expressed their interest in furthering their exports to China, a market they began tapping into 6 years ago.
China became the 16th largest coffee importer in the world in 2021, with shipments amounting to $498 million. This is a great opportunity for the Honduran coffee industry. We should strive for a higher level of exports to China.
Honduras is looking for more ways to expand its exports to China. The country's foreign minister stated that coffee will be the first Honduran export product to China, with plans in motion for further trade talks and agreements between the two sides. According to experts, the recent establishment of diplomatic relations between Honduras and China holds great significance for the Honduran economy. Xu Yi, CGTN, Beijing.
Business people, government officials, and investors from China and Arab nations are meeting in Riyadh from Sunday to Monday for talks in economy, trade, and investment. A record number of delegates are joining this year's Arab-China Business Conference, also the largest in its history. On its first day, 30 deals worth $10 billion were signed. Relations between Arab countries and their largest trading partner, China, became even closer after Chinese President Xi Jinping visited the Gulf nation for the first China-Arab State Summit last December. Trade between the two sides jumped 31% to reach $430 billion in 2022. Here's what some delegates had to say at the conference.
The success of this year's Arab-China business event signals to Arab countries that China is wide open for business opportunities.
I can see immense trade opportunities for both China and Arab countries by attending the Arab-China Business Conference. There has been a great number of talks going on between Chinese companies and its peers from the 22 member countries of the League of Arab States. Potential is especially huge for supply chain cooperation.
You're watching Global Business, still to come. Several Chinese commercial banks reduced interest rates on a range of yuan deposits in a coordinated move to ease pressure on profit margins.
"360-degree profiles of industry movers and shakers, tech mavericks, and policymakers. We drill down on their success. We ask how they set strategy and how they navigate in an increasingly competitive market. Real talk, real business. Join the conversation. Biz Talk, only on CGTN.
Several major Chinese commercial banks reduced interest rates on Monday on a variety of deposit products following the rate cut implemented by larger banks last week, aimed at easing pressure on their profit margins. Banks that follow suit include China Merchants Bank, China CITIC Bank, and China Minsheng Bank, among others. The interest rates on demand deposits were cut by 5 basis points to 0.2%. While 2-year deposits were reduced by 10 basis points and 3- and 5-year deposits were both cut by 15 basis points. This is the second instance of a wide-ranging rate cut within a year, with the previous action taken in September of last year. China's first carbon neutrality-themed expo, the Shanghai International Carbon Neutrality Expo, has attracted nearly 600 enterprises worldwide. The expo runs from Sunday till Wednesday and covers 6 key fields. These include the areas of key low-carbon transportation and energy efficiency, solar highways, virtual power plants, and many other innovations are on display. Project signings are also taking place to explore various ways to achieve carbon peak and neutrality goals. For China to have CO2 emissions to peak before 2030, annual emission cuts would need to come to 20 to 400 million metric tons. Demand is therefore soaring for a technology that's called carbon capture, utilization, and storage, or CCUS. CCUS refers to a suite of technologies that capture CO2 from power generators. The captured CO2 then can be used on site, transported to other places for a wide range of applications, or be trapped deep into seabed, for example, for permanent storage. China's Ecology and Environment Ministry said that a total of 40 CCUS projects across China can help capture 3 million metric tons of carbon dioxide per year, including the largest one in Asia for coal-fired power plants that started operation this month in China's East Jiangsu province. The ministry said the country is looking to scale up the industry so that oil producers, steel makers can cut emissions in a more cost-effective way. As summer farm work proceeds across China, smart equipment like automated tractors are now widely used, making the work more efficient and reducing labor costs. Our reporter Zhang Shixuan visited a paddy field near Shanghai to find out more.
As the machine passes by, it leaves behind it a patch of fresh green rice seedlings, evenly planted in the soil. Replacing dozens of farmers bending over and planting the seedlings by hand, the driverless machine is working all by itself. And it turns out it's not just saving labor costs.
The field is not regular in shape, and if we planted the seedlings by hand, it wouldn't be that accurate. It would lead to waste or damage.
The newly introduced machine just requires an operator to drive it around the periphery of the planted area, and after that, it's on its own.
Regular rice seedling machines have to roll the seedlings in, but this machine doesn't have to do that. We just put the whole plate of seedlings on it, and that reduces damage to the seedlings.
This almost 1.7 million square meter paddy field now has 2 driverless machines transplanting rice seedlings. Using the machines increases the productivity of the entire planting process by some 30 times.
We wanted to solve the labor problem in agricultural production, and especially now that we're looking at mass production, we lack of people with knowledge of machine operations, so it's better to conduct unmanned operations. In the upcoming 3 years, Chongming plans to build unmanned farms covering 10,000 mu.
So far, 97% of the planting and harvesting process in Shanghai's Chongming district has been mechanized. This year, the district has planted rice seedlings covering more than 260,000 mu, or more than 173 million square meters. The #1 central document for the year, released by the Communist Party of China Central Committee and the State Council, pledged to advance the national strategy of rural revitalization and accelerate the modernization process in rural regions. Zhang Shixuan, ICS for CGTN, Shanghai.
You're watching Global Business, still to come. As part of our coverage of the 25th Shanghai International Film Festival, we take a closer look at the development of cloud cinema in China.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
Now turning to the 25th Shanghai International Film Festival, and a special event was hosted on Saturday by the China Media Group to honor and promote China's film and television industry. Chen Yilin is in Shanghai with the latest.
A glamorous evening to celebrate those working in front and behind the camera. As one of the main events at the Shanghai International Film Festival, China Movie and TV Night honored China's finest.
This is the third time that China Media Group has hosted the China Movie and TV Night, and this year's special segment called CMG Recommendation of the Year has been presented.
The recommendations span 9 categories, from any works in actor and actress to directors in visual effect. The science fiction film Wandering Earth 2 was the biggest winner. It was listed as the recommended film of the year, while also being recognized for international communication and technological innovation. A lifelong journey, which tells of a Chinese family saga across 5 decades, was the TV series of the year. The gala also promoted new releases, including a Chinese-made action online game, Genshin Impact. The jury members hope the event can better promote Chinese stories on the global stage.
Chinese cinema, if you would allow me a paradoxical expression, is moving forward in a 360 degrees direction, in the sense that it's a multicentric cinema. I mean, what is quite amazing for me is the number of new filmmakers.
Another highlight of the event was the recreation of scenes from classic films and TV series, and they were presented by 20 TV anchors from China Media Group, offering audiences a different taste of classics, including Dream of the Red Mansions, The Journey to the West, and A Lifelong Journey.
The event also marks the grand opening of CMG Convergent Media Cinema, which is the first in China that's capable of transmitting high-definition 4K signals.
Chen Yilin, CGTN, Shanghai.
With record-breaking box office results for cinema films and the rising popularity of original internet films, China's film industry has seen tremendous growth in recent years. Our reporter Olivia He has more.
When it comes to watching films, cinematic screenings used to be the only option, but that has changed with the advent of cloud cinema, which offers viewers more options.
Cloud cinema is a brand new business model in which films are released on the internet and users pay to watch a single movie. The online premiere and distribution mode has turned out to be an effective supplement to cinematic screenings for movie enthusiasts.
Watching films online offers us a very personalized view experience, which allows us to adjust settings according to our preference. And also, watching films online are usually more cost-effective than going to the cinema.
China's video streaming platforms have embraced this trend, aiming to incentivize the production of higher quality films, boost box office sales, and increase audience recognition. For instance, iQIYI has modified the distribution rules with film producers. Rather than the previous pay for the first 6 minutes model, bills are now distributed based on the entire viewing time of the film, emphasizing the importance of content and quality.
We are now working very hard towards improving the quality of films. Cloud cinema has started to adopt the only pay for a single movie model, which means that memberships are no longer required to watch a film, and customers need to only pay for whatever they want to watch, so that the box office decisions are reliant on the audience. It has ended the distribution limit of online films and incrementally expanded the internet film market.
Mr. Yang told me that in the past year, iQIYI Cloud Cinema has launched 13 new original films, with more than half of the number of films exceeding 10 million yuan and more than 12 million people buying tickets on demand, demonstrating robust demand for online films. An expert says the new business model has further encouraged high-quality production of film companies.
For the major film companies, there is actually an extra channel for film output and an additional income stream. And if the companies earn more money from cloud cinema, they can invest more in film production in the future. In the end, audiences will be able to see more and better high-quality movies.
While online movies are becoming more popular in China, experts point out that offline theaters will continue to play a major role in the film industry. The two areas, online movies and theaters, are actually complementary to each other, and both are expected to drive the Chinese movie market forward. Olivia He, CGTN, Beijing.
Some other headlines we're tracking at this hour. Jonathan Haskell, a member of the British Monetary Policy Committee, has proposed multiple interest rate hikes to manage inflation at the Bank of England. Economists are predicting a potential increase from the current 4.5% to 4.75% by next week. On a separate note, Heathrow Airport announced that over 6.7 million passengers passed through the hub in May, making it the airport's busiest month since the pandemic began. The airport predicts that it will reach 96% of its 2019 passenger numbers by the end of 2023 at max. Meanwhile, UBS has successfully acquired Credit Suisse, creating a Swiss banking powerhouse with $1.6 trillion balance sheet and $5 trillion of assets under management. This merger marks the end of Credit Suisse's 167-year history. China Southern Airlines, one of China's leading carriers, has launched new routes from London Heathrow Airport to Beijing Daxing Airport as air travel begins to recover. Our reporter is on location in London to bring us a closer look at this development.
It's seen as a sign of economic revival when international airline companies expand routes. Gradually, air travel is rebounding after the COVID-19 pandemic. Announcing new routes to Beijing's new airport underlines a growing confidence by one of China's biggest carriers.
Since January, China's aviation market has seen passenger growth of 120% compared to 2019. Aviation transport globally in May was growing at 80%. Therefore, we're confident in the recovery of the Chinese market.
Before COVID-19, around 750,000 passengers travelled each year between China and the UK. Trade and tourism mostly, but the number of international students also increased. In London's universities in 2019, there were 150,000 Chinese students. The last 3 years, though, have been tough for the travel industry.
We expect it to continue to grow slowly, but into next year we're hoping numbers will recover to 2009.
China's travel restrictions were lifted at the end of April, which has led to a newfound optimism. But the profitability of new airline routes depends on passenger numbers and the costs of aviation fuel.
It's absolutely significant. What we've seen since the start of the year, as the travel restrictions have eased post-pandemic, that we've seen the routes start to open up, the airlines start to fly again. This is the start of the bringing back Chinese carrying.
It will be an uphill struggle. Forward Keys, a survey provider for Visit Britain, projected that passenger numbers could reach 59% this summer of what they were in 2019. But tourists may only reach 20% in comparison to 3 years ago. Real growth could take a few more years.
According to the International Air Transport Association's prediction, it will be around 2025. Currently, there are no significant differences in the recovery progress among different countries and regions globally.
Beijing's new $63 billion Daxing International Airport, with its 4 runways, is aiming for around 70 million passengers a year by 2025. And the UK is hoping to capitalise, which is why several tourism organisations were at the launch to support China's Southern Airlines. Chinese visitors are worth more than $2 billion a year to the UK economy. Yolo Ap David, CGTN, central London.
Apple will soon change its iPhone connector to reduce electronic waste. However, experts say more needs to be done to make the recycling of electronics more simple process. Our correspondent Jonathan Pleschberger reports from Austria.
At the Vienna DRZ Recycling Center, Wojciech Mroz dismantles cables to separate metals from plastics. What we need is inside the cables. Copper, that's what makes the most money. While copper is reused and sold for $8 per kilogram, the plastic mantle is often not recycled but incinerated. This is why the EU wants to tackle the e-waste problem at the source by establishing one standard charging cable for all phones, which will stop Apple using its iPhone Lightning connector in the block. The European Union says a unified charging cable will reduce e-waste and empower consumers to make more sustainable choices. Apple, on the other side, says strict regulation mandating just one type of connector stifles innovation rather than encouraging it. According to UN data, European households own an average 74 electronic products, 13 of which are lying unused in drawers and closets.
I have boxes in boxes with different cables from all the phones I have for like the last 15 years.
We just need one cable, like USB-C. No micro USB, no mini USB, no lightning.
No, we just changed everything to Apple, so it's not a big problem.
If there is one standardized cable, there will be less waste.
The EU must go further than only regulating chargers, says Stefan Saalhofer from the Institute of Waste Management at Vienna's Boku University. The professor calls for less hazardous elements in electronics, as flame retardants in the cable's plastic mantle cause difficulties during the recycling process.
First, it needs to identify those flame retardants. Some of them are toxic. Then this needs further separation.
Due to this complex process, only a few cables are completely recycled. While the EU's standard phone charger regulation comes into force by the end of next year, rumors say Apple might bypass the law by introducing a Lightning-like authenticator chip in its USB-C cables, potentially limiting the functionality with Apple unapproved accessories. So in the end, we might have to use multiple cables nevertheless. Johannes Pleschberger, CGTN, Vienna.
And that will do it for this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Jia Vandenberg in Beijing. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.